Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've got a brand new price target increase for Palantir from $13 to $18, and that is from Bank of America. Now, Bank of America is one of the 15 to 17 companies that has actually been following Palantir really for a long time. Mariana Perez Mora, the Vice President of Equity Research at Bank of America, has been following the company for about 2-3 years now, has put out numerous price targets on it, increases, decreases, holds, buy, sells, neutral, and the previous price target was 13, which was pretty up there given the highest we had was from Raymond James at about 15 bucks. So 13 was in the upper tier. It was definitely above 7, 8, 9 that a lot of other companies had. Today, they increased it from $13 to $18. So in this video, I want to go through the logic behind why they issued this now, what they see is different from the company that was, not different a couple months ago. Mind you, they're increasing their price target from 13 to 18, which is close to a $40 billion market cap, even though the growth rates are projected to be the same. I mean, it's not like Alex Karp and company issued more guidance. So, maybe, obviously they're expecting more growth in the future, but it's not like we got any formal guidance from the company that they're going to be growing much more substantially than they are right now, which means that Bank of America is pretty confident that the growth will be there, and they're also confident in the capabilities of Palantir to be able to execute on this massive AI opportunity. And then I want to take your attention to a study around artificial intelligence and what it means in terms of market valuations and why these Bank of America analysts and many more analysts are likely going to come out and give Palantir these price target updates. Now, before we get into this, Jefferies also increased their price target from $10 to $14 for Palantir on Friday. If we look at the stock right now, it's at 1572, ran up to 16 very briefly today, but it was at 1502 to start the morning. So this price target increase definitely bumped it up in the pre-market, and it's been able to sustain some of that momentum as we get further into the market. So let's get into this. Bank of America securities analysts believe that Palantir is a unique position to take advantage of the rising AI opportunity as they bump their price target from 13 to 18. In their latest note on the company, the analysts argue that the growing number of companies eager to use generative AI are all facing the same set of major compliance, regulatory, ethical, legal, privacy rights, data security, and accountability oversight requirements. As such, they underscore Palantir's inherent competitive advantage stemming from its experience working with the government in highly regulated industries, and note that Palantir has already developed and implemented the architectural design that supports generative AI in a compliant and private world. Now, this to me is it's funny and it's interesting and it's exciting at the same time, because this is exactly what Alex Karp has been saying for the past year. He has been saying on numerous interviews, if you want to implement AI in your organization, there are going to be regulatory, ethical, legal, privacy rights, data security, compliance, accountability issues. All of these things are going to be integral to be able to implementing artificial intelligence within an entire company, within an enterprise, within a government. And if you try to do it without these things, then it's just not going to work. I mean, like you can't implement AI given the power and efficiency of AI to actually grow your enterprise if these things aren't checked, which is what a lot of people said at AIPCon. So what's interesting to note here is that as Bank of America says that Palantir's experience working with the government, so, when we as YouTubers, I guess, FinTwit people on Palantir are saying, hey, IL6, this is a big deal. And everyone's like, IL6 doesn't matter. It's just like some government security consulting thing. It's like, actually, no, their ability to have the highest level of security clearance working with the government, you don't think that's going to impact them working with enterprises and their ability to translate that incredible level of confidentiality and security to an enterprise that likely doesn't even have that much confidential data in comparison to like the government that holds the nuclear codes? So, when we look at it from that perspective, people have been saying this around Palantir for a long time. The analysts, the banks are finally starting to realize that because the market opportunity for AI is so profound and so big, this is actually a moat. This actually matters. This is part of the technological advancements of Palantir rather than the disadvantages that most people say that it could be. So this is a big deal just in terms of Palantir's ability to actually implement this stuff in a meaningful way. Now, Bank of America also says that Palantir is positioned to be one of the dominant providers in generative AI by providing a near-term solution agnostic to a preferred LLM, complying to tight security, data privacy, and regulatory requirements with demonstrated use cases across sectors. Why is this important? Palantir has been able to work with any cloud computing platform, whether it's AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google GCP, because they're platform agnostic. They're providing data analytics on top of a cloud computing platform, not trying to compete with the cloud computing platform. It's the same thing in the context of generative AI and LLMs. They are agnostic to whatever LLM you use, large language model. Their argument is that we are going to be able to provide the AI infrastructure in order for those LLMs to be implemented into your organization so that you can get the business results, the business business intelligence, the efficiency, effectiveness, etc., you would want from those LLMs. It is an infrastructure play as much as it is an actual AI play, which is incredibly important. And it goes on to further say, compliant to tight security, data privacy, and regulatory requirements. I mean, this is like, I cannot reiterate how much this is going to matter into the future. Think about just Europe. That's just one continent. All the regulatory frameworks and requirements they have there, there's probably hundreds of billions of dollars worth of TAM to capture just in that continent. You can't be able to get it unless you have the ability to showcase that you have the privacy, security, and regulatory requirements intact in order to work with those enterprises. And so that's a big part of the moat. They conclude by saying, for companies looking to leverage AI in the near term under a compliant regulated world, all roads lead to Palantir. The analysts argue, citing comments by Palantir CEO Alex Karp, who said the company has received more inbound interest in the last few weeks than in all of the last year, all related to the recent launch of AIP. Now, why do I believe Karp when he says this? To be honest, it's because of what this report is coming out and saying, that if Palantir is one of the only companies that can actually work from a compliant and regulated perspective to be able to implement that, if you're an organization, that's one of the only things you care about, is like, I want to know how quickly I can implement that and get results, but I also want to know how can I do it without getting sued? How can I do it without losing customer data? And if that's the case, and Palantir is like top of the list for all these enterprises that can actually do this, now this idea of massive inbound interest is starting to make sense to me. The inbound interest is not because of AI. It's not because of just, oh, I want to implement AI. It's, I need to implement this in the safest, most compliant way possible. I trust that you guys have the tech, but can you do it in a way that doesn't lose me my entire company because something gets leaked? And that's where I think Palantir has a massive competitive advantage. That's where I'm starting to believe it's a very big moat. Lastly, the analysts also cite recent conversations with existing Palantir clients who suggest Palantir is 5 years ahead of the closest company, and estimate AIP solutions could help Palantir further penetrate within existing customers and open up for partnership opportunities. Now, why is that important? Two things there. If they're talking, Bank of America in this scenario, to clients that are using Palantir, right? Clients that are using the AIP software, and we saw a bunch of them that were at the AIP conference, and all those clients are saying, yeah, I mean, really, we don't want to use anyone else. We think Palantir's AIP works, and there's not that many other companies we would use. And I spoke to someone who went to the FoundryCon in October that spoke to the Tampa General Bay Hospital CEO, executive chairman, whatever. And his question was like, hey, why are you guys using Palantir? And the Tampa Bay General Hospital guy was like, what do you mean, why are we using? There's no one else to use. And I'm sure those types of conversations also happened with some of the Bank of America analysts that ultimately came to the conclusion of like, maybe we should really take this seriously when clients are telling us there's no one else they can use in this situation. So other people will say that's a consulting firm. In my opinion, that is a tech company that has a massive moat that is consulting with these companies in terms of helping them build out the infrastructure. That infrastructure is creating network effects because they're getting a ton of R&D. So when they do it for the next company, there's not going to have to be that much consulting. And ultimately, those companies are going to continue to use the software, which is why the bottom of the report says this creates more partnership opportunities in terms of upselling to existing clients, because now, just like we saw with Jacobs, if you're using Foundry, what if you use AIP? And if you're using Foundry and AIP together, eventually you're going to get better results. The next thing we have that we're going to be able to sell you is going to be even better than that over the next couple of years. And that's a client that's going to stay with you for a very, very long time. Because what else are they going to use? Especially if they're getting massive results in their digital transformation process. So it seems like the analysts are starting to recognize two key things. AI is here, and the market to be able to capitalize on artificial intelligence opportunities is now. It's not in the future. It's not in the past. It's now. It will only be growing in the future, but if you want exposure to companies before they become the next NVIDIA, which I'm not saying Palantir will be, but in this hypothetical, then you've got to iterate price target increases now in order to be able to lock up those shares. And that's agnostic to whatever happens in the macro. The macro is the macro. You can't control that, but analysts are looking at what is the intrinsic value of this company in and of itself. The second thing they're starting to realize is that not only is AI here, in order to implement AI infrastructure within a company, within an enterprise, for them to benefit from AI, the regulatory, privacy, data security, all that stuff really matters. It's not just a game. We're not just talking about that in hypotheticals. If those two things are true, then you could expect a lot more price target increases for Palantir, because there are not many companies outside of Microsoft and Google. And again, they're not really doing the same thing as Palantir. They just have kind of different ways they're generating their business that are at the level of an IL6 that can then translate into enterprises that can capitalize on the AI market because they've been building AI for the past 20 years, and that can then actually do it in a safe way. That is the moat in one sentence for what Palantir is offering right now. And I think a lot of analysts are starting to recognize that. As a result of that, we are also seeing the market respond in terms of where the market opportunity is. Artificial intelligence market to reach US 2.7 trillion by 2032. North America is expected to dominate the worldwide market. Artificial intelligence is part of an information and communication technology that is used across various industries for optimizing the workload. AI aims to create machines that perform tasks normally or otherwise only performed by humans. This technology is now an invaluable resource in many areas due to decision-making ability based on patterns and understanding. And again, that sentence right there, you could have said Foundry. Palantir's flagship software was built on that idea of, being able to pattern match and then make decisions based on hidden gems you find within all these big sets of data that were siloed, and now you put them together. AIP on top of that just hypercharges the ability to truly be able to understand what your business is doing, and your ability to then self-regulate yourself and become more effective based on the software being implemented into the business. So as you can see, global artificial intelligence market, and there are many studies like this. I mean, this is just one of many articles that I've seen that are estimating it's a $2.7 trillion market. And that, you could even argue, is conservative because we do not know the scale. I mean, if you use ChatGPT 4, imagine ChatGPT 10, ChatGPT 15, like the levels of productivity that are going to increase as a result of AI on this exponential curve, which is just going to happen. And so as a result of that, there's just a lot of arguments for why this market is increasing. In 2022, North America was the dominant market with 51.1% market share of AI solutions. Why is this important? Because CARP has been saying America is the most resilient and the most adaptive when it comes to implementing and embracing new software solutions. Well, if that's the case, if America and North America in particular is going to control 50% of this market, theoretically, or, dominate a majority of the AI software solutions because AI tech companies tend to start in North America, and Palantir is mainly growing their US commercial at a 67% CAGR in North America, then the opportunity for them to be able to capture a lot of the market in this particular location right now, given that's where they're growing, is a great opportunity. I mean, it's happening right now. And even David Glazier, the CFO on Palantir in the earnings call, when he was asked a question around GAAP profitability, especially with declining international growth, which I think will pick up as Palantir is able to showcase the use of the product to some of their international clients, his argument said US commercial. I mean, he was like, focus on US commercial. That's what's getting us to GAAP profitability. That's what's eventually going to get us into the S&P 500. That's where you've got to focus on for our next leg of growth. And we're going to fix the other stuff in terms of the government growth, international expansion, etc. But US commercial is what you got to be able to give us the valuation on, because that's what's growing. And that's the market where the opportunity to grow, because the market is ready to grow, right? Companies are ready to embrace this technology, is happening. And that's where it's going on. And that's where it's currently showing Palantir that they have an opportunity to really be able to build out their entire infrastructure for AI within North America before they start expanding to the rest of the world. So Bank of America, price target increase from $13 to $18. Number one takeaway is that if AI is implemented in a company, it's got to be done in a safe, protected way. Palantir is close to a $40 billion company as it approaches $18, even with 18% year-over-year growth. The biggest thing it seems like is Bank of America and a lot of these other analysts that are upgrading their price targets, which ultimately move the markets, right? Like all of us on YouTube and Twitter may think, oh yeah, Palantir obviously should be $18. Like we understand, blah, 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 blah. Until the analysts say it, nothing happens, right? That's just kind of how the market goes. So you have to be able to hold the stock and stomach it until the analysts finally come to, these were analysts saying it's a $6, $7 stock just a month ago, right? And so things change very quickly once the market comes into fruition for what a lot of these analysts see. But when that happens, and it happens very quickly. A lot of these analysts are starting to recognize that if you can't implement it safely within a company, there is no reason for why AI should even be implemented, because it's not going to work. And even though Palantir is showing 18% year-over-year growth, they're expecting that the increased demand and Palantir's unique capability, truly monopolistic capability to implement AI safely within an organization, should give them the level of growth that allows them to grow into an $18 price range. Because right now, if the stock was $18 with the growth it has, probably people would say it's overvalued. If they can continue to grow, which is what analysts are expecting based on the price targets they're setting and based on the moat they're creating for Palantir, given what we saw in this report, then that's why this price target is justified. And as long as Palantir continues to grow, then they will grow into that valuation. So those are my thoughts. Palantir upgraded from $13 to $18 from Bank of America. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Thanks so much for listening and watching. I'll see you in the next one.